Well, everybody, this is the video I didn't really expect or want to make. I'm having issues with my trans. Obviously, it's outside the car now. We're gonna go over it. Basically, it's probably an issue that I did to it, but we're gonna break it open because at this point, I really don't know why it pushed the front seal, but all I do know is that it did push the front seal out behind the converter. So. I don't know if the converter snagged the pump bushing, but it slides in and out fine. So we're gonna tear it apart and we're gonna put it in the aftermarket case. So this is a BT Super Case. It's brand new SFI. These are kind of hard to find right now. So I had to pay a pretty good penny for them. I also have a new TCI pump and a TCI billet input shaft that I probably won't use on this build, but it'll probably go in the Capri back there. So let's get to tearing it down. Before we start this build, I kind of want to give you guys some advice. Anybody that's trying to do small tire racing or making 4-digit horsepower where they need to be in an aftermarket case, some life advice from me is just buy somebody's pre-built trans. How much I have into this with all the parts, it's got a 10 clutch direct drum in it. It's got a Hughes band. It's got 6 reverse clutches, I think. Obviously it's got this cover on it. Sonic's blue, this is a supported pin cover. It's got a swap meet trans brake. And it has a Hughes dump valve set up on it, which is partially unhooked. But if you're gonna buy a trans that's built like this in an aftermarket case, you can buy it for like $3,500, $4,000. I probably have more money in it than that in a stock case, and then I had to buy this for $1,200. So live and learn. Hopefully you can not do the same mistake as me. But we're gonna put it all in this case, obviously. I'm not super happy about this. The engine had just idle time on it, so it somehow spun the seal out. I don't know if it was install error. I'm gonna lean towards it. It's probably my fault, but it is what it is, and we're gonna fix it. So knee-jerk reaction, I bought a TCI pump. It's a G-rotor pump. So this is a new pump. Obviously it's a TCI pump. This does have passes on it, but it's, pretty much new. It's got a couple dyno pulls on it, but otherwise you wouldn't be able to tell. So we're gonna put this in. Hopefully have no issues anymore. It is made for a ring shaft, which is what I use, and what this is also a ring shaft. You can see the rings on it. My shaft in this glide is a Cohen 300M aerospace something. It's rated for like 1,500 horse, which is more than we'll make, but I do have to take this apart in order to put a converter feed restrictor in. That's part of the modifications that's needed for the dump valve setup. So this is different than a stock pump, but it does come with paperwork. So hopefully it tells me where to drill, or if I can call TCI and they'll tell me maybe. I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys this before I pull the converter where it's leaking. It seems like it pushed the front seal out. It doesn't really look like the seal is pushed out. So I don't really know what the issue is here, but We're gonna pull it apart, but I wanted to first show you guys before I did. So if you look up in here, you can see it seems like the seal itself is leaking. It's dripping down the pump from the top, or from the center, it looks like. So we're gonna pop the converter out, see how high up it's wet. So I'm checking out the seal on it here. It doesn't look like it's actually pushed out of the pump. The seal just looks like it's bad. This is my cone input shaft. You can see it's still ringed. It's a little crusty, but it was a used shaft to begin with. Some of the controversy that I've been thinking is that I spec this pump, or this converter for a glide, and that it's not bushed for the turbine housing, because on a glide you're supposed to run either a turbine bushing in the end. I just assumed this is a billet converter and it's spec for a glide, that it has a bushing in it, but I'm not so sure. So maybe I should call Jake's and ask. The new pump has a receiver cut for that bushing if I need to pound one in, but it doesn't seem like that would. It's just something I'll have to figure out. I'll have to call Jake's and see, because that almost seems like it's not bushed. All right, so I don't want to bore you guys too much with this, because I did do the whole video on just pump mods for the dump valve. But this is a new TCI, or like new TCI pump. It's a Gerotor, I don't know how you say it, but pump. It's a little bit different circuitry than the stock pump, powerglide pump, but basically this is my converter feed where it comes in from the pump. This is where it exits. Then they got a port right here where it, you know, cross drills for machining purposes. So that bottom one was where I really wanted to put the restrictor, but for some reason it's bigger than 5/16, so I ended up kind of boring this down just to so it didn't like welt up the top of this here, which I still have to kind of use a knife stone and stone this flat because there is a little bit there. But then I counterbored it just a hair, and then I took my 5/16, tapped it down. I've got a brass set screw in there, and it's drilled for 1/8 inch so that my converter feed is restricted so that my dump valve works. And that's pretty much the only pump mod that I have to do to this. It's supposed to be ready to go. So starting to tear this apart, you got the input shaft on a glide, it just pulls right out. Hopefully this doesn't fight us like the pump that we were just trying to build. Hopefully it comes right out. It's probably not going to. Yep. All right, well, I guess let's make a mess. Well, I did drain this. I don't know why there's so much oil left in it, but There is a couple mods I gotta do to this that I didn't do last time that I'm kind of glad it's coming apart for. Other than that, I'm not super happy that we already have issues with this. This bolt, and this bolt, I think hold the valve body to the front, and these four here hold the ones to the back, and then this will all come off. Minus your linkage here, which I probably should have flipped over and pulled that off first, but I'm a little rusty. For anybody who's curious about the dump valve setup, it is a Hughes unit. Haven't got to test it, so I don't really know what to tell you on if it works or not. There'll be a valve behind this, in this gasket. So make sure you grab the spring out of there, it'll fall out. Now I did get a new filter set up from TSR that uses Dodge, I guess, parts. I guess I can show that to you now, so you can see the size comparison. So this uses the 727 element. People's biggest complaint with the 727 is that they use like a Dexcron element. This is obviously I don't know, mesh element, but you can see the size difference. Obviously the powerglide filter is a mesh on the one side, which would be the top side. This has probably 3 times the surface area if you think about just having one side on this, which is both sides on this, and then the adapter for it. That jerking sideways like that is because of this spring right here. So we're going to have to pop this off. Notice the range, this is the range valve for what gear you're in. That slides off there. You kind of just give this a little wiggle and it'll come right up. So we're going to go ahead and loosen up our band adjustment. You can see our band's all the way loose. Still doesn't really help us get the pump out. I could run a bolt in here. Couple of them are tapped for 3/8. I think it's this one and this one. Of course, I don't have a slide hammer, so we're gonna use the wrong tool for the job. I'm not too worried about running this case if I have to, because obviously we got an aftermarket case to put on it. So here's one of the things that I screwed up the last time. This is a thin washer for a machine pump, and it came with a washer to take up some of the clearance, and when I went to check this before I tore it down, this thing had like 40 thousandths of thrust. So I should have had a washer on here. I'm gonna double check it when I go to take the rest of it apart and put it in the new case, obviously. I got the normal thickness washer for a machine pump, and I've got a bunch of shims to put it back together. If you're seeing this wet spot on my leg, it's ATF, not P. So this is a 10 clutch drum. I'm gonna drop all our other stuff. Common problem, people forget the wedding band. Don't ever forget that. So, not even gonna take this apart. I probably should, but I'm not going to. It's 10 clutches, it's only got run time on it, so I'm sure it's fine. No, it does feel like it turns pretty hard. Maybe I will tear that apart off camera. This is a Hughes band. I didn't ever even engage any gears, so I doubt that any of it's bad, but just checking on it, it looks just like when I put it in, so. This is, I don't know, I think they call it a strut for your, I want to say accumulator, solenoid. That's not the right word for it. This is your other one for your band adjuster. That name will come to me, but it's basically for this right here. And then I have to take the back half off to get the gear set. So some of this stuff I gotta steal off this trans, like this rubber O-ring that's underneath this tail housing, because I didn't get a new one. Like I've told, I think at the beginning of this video, this trans only has idle time on it, so. I've also kind of read before I was getting ready to tear this down that sometimes glides leak if you don't drive them. And if that's the case, I guess I'm fine with it because I really needed an SFI case anyways. Kind of a bummer that I had to tear it down right away, but by the way, they call this a servo. My brain just sometimes farts. I can't think of what I need to say. A couple bearings you need to worry about. This is different than a 182 gear set, so I had to order this because I didn't have any 176 gear sets. Also, this bearing, which sets on the face of the 10 clutch drum that engages to it, sits in here, so you just want to make sure you don't leave that out. I'm gonna go set these over on the table. And the only modification that I wanted to do that I didn't do last time is back here in the reverse clutch set. People will drill a hole, which I guess I'll probably show you guys here in just a minute once I get these all out. They'll drill a hole in the top of the piston to bleed the air out, and then once the clutch applies to it, it'll cover the hole. It just helps quick apply and quick unapply. It'll drain the pressure off when there's not pressure coming in. And I also do got to steal some springs out of there because I didn't get new ones. So basically just robbing this case of parts. All right, so this is the reverse piston. It's just got a small bleed hole in there, and then once it applies fluid, it'll obviously go up against the steel and cover it, and it won't have a bleed off. So it's all the way through. The only thing you got to worry about is getting it into your ledge here where your seal sits. I just had it out. As you can see, it's not broke through, so you kind of got to drill it at an angle. You got to drill it kind of towards the inside, but it's in there. So that was the one mod I didn't do last time that I wanted to do. We're gonna clean up this mess and then start going back together the new trans. I failed to realize I need a governor gasket for the rear governor cover. So I gotta probably go find one of them tomorrow, but we'll get it as far together as I can. If you guys have made it to the end of the video, I was gonna do a mention of the merch. I just got this hoodie. I'm kind of hard to get sizes for because I use a tall shirt, 2 or 3X tall, so it's hard for me to find clothing. If you're just normal size, usually these are made to order. My girlfriend makes them, so the link is always in the description of each video. But if you want to support the channel, this is one of the hoodies. We're doing vinyl hoodies and shirts. If you guys want to support the channel, I'd appreciate it.